Thank you. Whoa, 40 years ago exactly that was.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for about 30 years, and I'm kind of knocked out.
Well,
This is
I don't know. When you look at old films that you've made, all you see is like mistakes and stuff sometimes. But it's good to hear it with an audience.
Yeah, I mean, John, you write bestsellers, you do art shows, you're a photographer, and
But I don't have any hobbies.
don't have any hobbies. But you made this, and I'm thinking that there's Mark Twain, there's Max Sennett, Joan Rivers, and you.
Thank you. That's very sweet. You know, when I introduced Serial Mom, Joan Rivers is in Serial Mom, and we have one show. She said, "This is the lowest form of show business I've ever been in," because I wasn't even there when we filmed her scene, which is her just saying, "Serial hags, women who love men who mutilate." That was the only thing she had to say. But I didn't even go there, and we did it without me. And so she was always supportive. She had Divine on the show. She was supportive from the very beginning.
Yeah, well, I think that this is also, to me, this is Divine's greatest performance. And is this the only movie where Divine played a man?
No, Divine played a man in Hairspray. He plays the racist owner of the, and Divine liked playing men.
Yeah.
He in Mondo Trasha, you can see somebody moons Mary Vivian Pierce, who, by the way, just sent a text. She lives in Nicaragua, saying hello to everybody. And he sticks his head out the window as kind of a greaser in it. So Divine liked playing men too.
Yeah.
Divine could play both. He would have liked to play the dog in Pink Flamingos. He would play every scene, really.
Well, he's I mean, he tears up the screen here. How much did he have to do with writing his point? His lines. Creating
He didn't.
his
No, I'm not. I'm in the Writers Guild. I'm against improvisation.
Uh-huh.
Every movie, improvisation is like a facelift. If you notice, it's bad. And I see a lot of movies today, I think, oh, come on, where they go on for 20 minutes improvising. I know that's not in the script, and the directors like that. I personally don't. I don't have time. I got to make the film. So Divine did not. We rehearsed these movies. How anybody could say they were amateurs. They had to memorize 20 pages of dialogue in one. I don't know, some of the big movie stars can do that. Well, some can. But he didn't really write the dialogue, but at the same way, I wrote it for him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the only movie where I really wrote the part for the lead for him. And then when he was not in Desperate Living, and Sue Lowe stepped in and played the part that he was going to play, I realized that I couldn't from then on write a part for one character because they might not be available. So, but this one was totally written to be a Divine vehicle, certainly.
Yeah,
and Divine was how old then? In 1974, he was born in 46. So how old's that?
28.
28, playing a 16-year-old girl. He did it fairly convincingly, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's nobody else who really could have played this.
I didn't think of anybody. Thank God. I didn't have a short list.
Nah.
No.
But when I wasn't thinking so much that he wrote his dialogue, but that the theme of the movie, I mean, the focus on celebrity and notoriety and something is I'm wondering if that was part of his makeup. I mean, something that
I think it was more part of my love for Genet, and all that kind of what I was influenced by. Divine had been in jail briefly in that prison. He hated having to go in there that day carrying the electric chair because he thought I was tricking him or something. And the prisoners in there, we have the gas chamber, so they saw that. They thought, oh, great. And the warden let us film that in the prison, which is pretty amazing. And Divine shaved his head that morning, put on the dress, and we walked across the prison yard carrying that electric chair to go in and shoot it. Can you imagine that being allowed today? And so Divine was never certainly a criminal, but Divine lived like a rich person. even when he had no money. He lived like a movie star, so he would just shoplift and write bad checks for things that he should have had, but he didn't at the time. So and then I've always said this, but once the cops came and he had to take a lie detector test, and he passed. So that is acting.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned Genet. Is that Divine gets his name from?
Well, I
Genet?
guess he did, although
Yeah.
I remember taking that name from Catholicism, what they always told us what is divine and everything. But it had to be from Genet because I read Genet then and everything, but I don't remember it being from that, but it had to be.
How does it work coming from Catholicism?
Well, because they use that word divine all the time, meaning that it was supernatural, it was of Christ-like, was divine, it was like a miracle you couldn't understand and all that kind of thing. So that's where the name came from. It was like a Catholicism word that I could twist in a certain way.
Yeah. There's all sorts of things in this movie. I don't know if you want to say anything about the dedication.
Oh, I
But,
apologize for that dedication
Did you?
in my last book of role models because Leslie Van Houten is my friend, and I am very seriously writing to get her out of prison. I did know Charles Watson, and I apologize for that because it was very flippant and it was very punk rock. Manson. Now I look back, and Manson really, to me, is made the people that did it are victims too. Not as bad, of course, as the people that were murdered, but Leslie is my friend, and I look back on it now, and in a very serious way, I try to help her get out and everything. So I did apologize that for role models. Yes, you do things when you're young, the crazy stuff, and I get why I did it at the time. The crime thing had happened. I had been to the Manson trial. It was hugely influential, mostly on Pink Flamingos, though, because I went, and in Multiple Maniacs, it's amazing, but we took credit for the murders when they hadn't caught Manson.
Yeah.
What was I thinking, So, there was a history of that, certainly, in the movies, yes.
Yeah. Well, I thought at the time, and even now, that one of the most interesting things about your films is that they were made for a certain audience. I mean, you were on the radio the other day, and the interviewer said that the movie was made to shock the squares or put off the squares, but that wasn't even.
No, it was
the
to
audience.
shock hippies.
To shock
Yeah,
hippies. I
yeah.
mean, it's the fact that that there was this notion of hippie tolerance that really gets pushed to the limit in these films.
But we were hippies, sort
Yeah.
of. We were more yippies. That was what I believed in at the time, like revolution, rip off the man. But I was a fourth line. I never got hit by the cops. I knew when to run. Divine certainly was not. He was hardly a hippie.
Yeah.
He tried to be a mod, but it didn't really work. But his dad used to always say to him, "Why don't you go out there, go to those demonstrations and stuff?" And Divine just wanted to go see Elizabeth Taylor movies, really.
Who you came up with Divine's look at the end? The mohawk?
Well, I would say that I did, but also Van Smith had a huge influence. Who did Divine's makeup and hair and the costumes for all my movies and the makeup, and it was Van really. I did tell him once just shave the hair back, but later that image of Divine with the mohawk became on punk rock T-shirts everywhere before Female Trouble had even played in London.
Yeah.
So certainly that image was appropriated as a punk rock look, which it certainly was a good look. Yeah. But that was real. None of these people had wigs on or anything. They had to go out of the house. I mean, when we made Pink Flamingos, you forget that Mink Stole and David Lochary had blue and red hair. Today, you can buy that in the Rite Aid, that dye. Then you got stones thrown at you. You couldn't even go out if you look like that.
Speaking of, could you explain the title, Pink Flamingos?
Well, I wanted to give a really plain title to a movie that was going to be extreme. I didn't want the title to be sensational. And Pink Flamingos, well, because there is a pink flamingo on the front lawn, and that was sort of, at the time, a symbol of a trailer park and blue-collar living and everything. The same way Jeff Koons did Gazing Balls recently. It came from the same thing. So I wanted to have a name that was not so sensational, since everything else in the movie kind of was.
Something that I noticed, and actually in the Outer Cape, a part of the world you know well, is a resurgence of pink flamingos.
But I'm against them now.
Now, okay.
Yeah. Here's why.
So they became hipster.
I'm for them if you're 75 years old and you have the plaster kind, the original that you've had since the 40s. I'm against it if you're a yuppie, very different, a yuppie with a plastic one on in your front lawn to mock blue-collar people. Yes, I'm against them now, and I think they've become kind of wearisome. You know, now they're a hipster kind of thing, and then some people have hundreds of them on their front lawn. I think it's not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they should be imprisoned or anything.
Get the chair.
It's just they came too late. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
And wishing wells, that's another thing. I have a scene in Female Trouble I love when she says, "I'll throw a goddamn penny in a wishing well, make a wish." Because a lot of people had wishing wells on their front yard. And I always find that hilarious. They could just run out and throw a coin in the wishing well.
Well, I have to say it was very nice to see this, knowing that just across the street, Fashion Week is.
Yeah, but I'm all for Fashion Week.
No,
yeah.
Maybe this could have been part of that.
Well, I think Fashion Week's exciting. You know, it's fun and it's extreme. And I was the host for the Fashion Oscars this year, which was exciting. And I gave a speech about how we should make fashion cost more. It's too cheap.
You really are a folk hero.
Well.
When you were hitchhiking for your book, I mean, did a lot of people recognize you?
Some did. Most drove by me and thought, could that be John Waters? And then a lot of people, most people thought I was homeless and tried to give me money. Because, you know, I was 66 then, 66-year-old man standing on the highway with a sign. People don't even know what hitchhiking is anymore. Yeah. I was hitchhiking once in Provincetown, and a family picked us up, and the little kid's like staring at me in the back seat like, "Dad, why is this man in the car? Who is he? Why did you stop?" They don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, did you hitchhike a lot back in the day?
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, my type is the hitchhiker with a birthmark in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, thought he was kind of cute.
Let's talk a little bit about underground movies, because I think that it's safe to say that when you started, you were kind of a second generation underground
Yes,
filmmaker.
but in Baltimore, because you know, Andy and the Kuchar brothers were all older than me. Andy was 2 decades before me, but certainly when I started reading about underground movies was a perfect timing, because I was a senior in high school. I read The Village Voice every week, and the brilliant column by Jonas Mekas, Movie Journal, and Film Culture magazine. That was my total Bible in Baltimore. That was my only link to it. And I would come to New York and see all those movies, yes. But I was not in that scene, and that scene was not interested in really showing my movies. None of my movies before Pink Flamingos played in New York till after Pink Flamingos became a hit.
I mean, I was the same, living in Queens, reading about this stuff. But I did
Well,
have...
Queens is like Baltimore. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. It's not as picturesque, but I did have a job, though. I think in the summer of 1970, which was the Manson summer. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a lot happened that month. Woodstock, Altamont.
No, this is the year.
The year after.
When Manson was on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Oh, right,
and so
right.
on. And had a job at the Filmmakers Co-op cleaning the film. And I did notice that there were these films there, Mondo, Trasho, and Multiple Maniacs, which parenthetically I have to say I really do recommend going to see these movies. I mean, they're really not like anything else. But I didn't, you know, I used to sometimes look at the movies on the rewinds, and I don't know, I saw those, I didn't know what they were, I didn't think of it, and then I saw this movie called The Diane Linkletter Story, and I fell off my stool. I mean, I couldn't imagine who would have had the audacity to make this movie, and you withdrew it from circulation.
No, I withdrew it because it wasn't a real movie, and it happened. It was really in bad taste, because Diane Linkletter is, nobody remembers this. She was Art Linkletter's daughter, and supposedly Art Linkletter was a right-wing TV host that had a show called Kids Say the Darndest Thing, where he tricked children into talking about going to the bathroom while the audience howled in laughter. And he was friends of Nixon, and he, who later made AIDS jokes, by the way, also Art Linkletter. But his daughter tragically did supposedly commit suicide on LSD, and I had to test the camera for Multiple Maniacs the day or two it happened. So I said, quick, let's shoot something, and Divine played Diane. But there's no makeup. He has a day-old beard and my bathrobe on, right? Yeah. And then we had it out, I think, before the funeral, and the ad was just Diane, the girl, the tragedy, the gap. And it was bad taste, but later he put out a record called We Love You, Call Collect, where he cried in it and said, Diane, come home. And then, beyond that, it came out in the last 10 years, and I have the clipping in the Watergate tapes that are still released, that Diane Linkletter had not had LSD for a year, and Nixon and Linkletter conspired to blame Timothy Leary and the drug culture for her death. So I'm not sorry I made it. And it led to a genre of the Cockettes then made Trisha's Wedding, which premiered at the exact moment Trisha Nixon got married, with all drag queens playing the parts of all the characters. And it was at the exact time that she got married. And then that genre died. It was a very short genre. Right.
But if I'm not mistaken, it showed as a short subject at the Elgin.
Oh, yeah, it probably did when they finally later showed Multiple Maniacs and stuff.
I think Pink Flamingos, they showed it together.
Yeah. I didn't exactly withdraw it. It just kind of faded to my closet. Right.
Yeah. You didn't use his record for the soundtrack?
I maybe.
Yeah, because
it's not in release. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's going to be showing, so
yes, in a historical context.
That's right. It's a rare opportunity. Anyway, when I saw it, I was stunned.
And do you remember Leslie Trumbull? He used to run the filmmaker.
Sure.
He was probably your boss, right?
Yeah.
And this was in a great distribution company. Every person they would say yes to. They never said no to anybody. Right. And it was a library. But it led then to the Filmmakers Distribution Center, where they showed Chelsea Girls and stuff. And that led me to getting Underground Cinema 12, which was a place where they rented your film and it could play in one theater at midnight on this chain all around the country of the Art Theater Guild that had porno in the day, but to save themselves in the neighborhood on Saturday night at midnight, they had a, quote, art festival. So that was great. And Multiple Maniacs played in there, and I would send my dad the money because I got $90. It was $1 a minute. Same with Filmmakers Cooperative, $1 a minute. And all my movies were 90 minutes long, almost every one, because I'm still stuck in that 16 mm 3 reels, beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a good long comedy. Have you ever seen a long comedy that's funny? Yeah.
No, 2 reels.
3-hour comedy.
Yeah. You're also a cineast. I mean, you see a lot of movies. Have ideas about other people's movies and so on. Are you going to do a 10 best?
For Art Forum, I do it every year. Yeah.
I mean, I look forward to. Can you?
Thank you. No, I can't reveal yet what they are. No. Okay. And it's due so early. It's always due in mid-October. So right now I'm like scrambling to get all the screeners and everything of all the movies that are coming up I want to see in the New York Film Festival. Are you kidding? Bruno Dumont. Oh, Godard in 3D. There's so many great ones coming up.
Yeah. Well, they're also doing here after the festival a series by one of your favorites.
Margarita Duras. I want to come dressed as her in drag and see, make an appearance. I met her once, and she was here at the Carnegie Hall Cinema showing her films, and she said, I hope nobody comes. I don't care if you like my movies. And I have the Margarita Duras cookbook. There is such a thing. And it says, it's written in her handwriting. You'll never be able to make these. That's what she says in it. So good.
Had she ever seen any of your films?
I didn't ask her. I was too scared of her. No, I'm sure she has not. She was quite grumpy. Yeah.
What's your favorite film?
The Truck. And I presented it here at the French Academy. We had a big audience. And she said it was the biggest crowd The Truck ever had. Yeah, I think it's a good one. I like her. I like her films. I like her novels. I'm all for it. I like impenetrable art films that you suffer in. Yeah. I like a feel-bad movie.
Oh, yeah. There might be some of those. Also coming up is at Film Forum, I think at the end of the month, is a something which seems to me to be long overdue, a Tennessee Williams film festival.
I don't know about that. Are they showing the one that I once met,
Yeah.
Fassbinder with Douglas Sirk in Berlin? Almost fell to my knees. And Douglas Sirk told me he liked Pink Flamingos. But you're kidding. You saw Pink Flamingos? But anyway, they showed me a movie they made of a Tennessee Williams short story where Fassbinder stars in it. Douglas Sirk directed it, and but it's in German, so I don't know what it was. Is that in it?
No.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
There is such a thing.
Yeah, I didn't. Are you sure that Douglas Sirk wasn't talking about the actual artifact Pink Flamingos?
No. Oh, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. No, I think because he was with Fassbinder. No, Fassbinder was like in a full slob, no deodorant look, and he was in a prim white linen suit. They couldn't look more of like an unlikely couple. But Fassbinder really did bring Douglas Sirk back to the attention of the cinema world completely.
Yeah.
He's responsible for that revival.
Yeah. Did you know Tennessee Williams?
No, I only saw him once, very much at the end in Key West, and he looked a little inebriated, and I thought, this is not the time, really.
Do you have any favorites of those? I mean,
Well, I wrote, the introduction to his thing, and in my role models, I wrote a lot about Tennessee Williams. So, of course, he saved my life when I was young. And I read him, I thought, there is Bohemia. There's something else beside this world that, I don't know, this is what I'm looking for, where he hung around with radical sexual people, but it wasn't just a gay world, it was a mixed world, and he was so smart, and he really did save my life as a kid. And I used to steal the books because they would say "See librarian" if a child asked for them. Like One Arm, remember that one? That was so great, and that really helped me when I was 8 years old.
I know you're a fan of Boom.
Yes, Boom. I presented that at a lot of festivals. Yeah. And I only met Elizabeth Taylor once, and I told her how much I liked her. She said, "That's a terrible movie." She thought I was making fun of her. But then I calmed her down, and and she looked exactly like Divine. It was at her house. She was serving hot dogs and candy, just like Divine did.
And there's an actress, I hadn't noticed that.
Sally Turner. Yeah, she's no longer with us, but she looked like Elizabeth Taylor every day. She got dressed as her. And she was a hoarder too, and she was great. She's Divine's double in the Go Fuck Yourself scene. She plays the man and the woman, and she's in the beauty parlor. She's getting her hair done by George Figgs.
I mean,
all the neighbors helped. They were all Pat Moran's neighbors. We filmed a lot of these movies in Chuck Yaton's store. Above the store was where we filmed Dawn's apartment and everything. So it was our hangout, like Reed Street. It's where it was Pat Moran's dog that. Shit the dog ate. It was a family-run business.
Right, you had your own counterculture,
Well, it was just, we all hung out in her store, which was called Divine Trash, and it was great. I mean, I remember once a customer, her hair caught on fire from a candle, and Pat just sold her a hat. We rolled with the punches,
See if is there time to take a few questions from the audience? No?
One more. One more question from you.
One more question from me. Oh my God.
Okay.
Make it. Where were we? We were talking about.
We were talking about Boom, or I don't know. We can.
Williams. I mean, well, this is kind of a sort of a diminuendo, but it was very nice to see Cookie Mueller on the screen. Is she also from Baltimore?
She is from Baltimore, yeah. And I met her. She won the door prize at the screening of Mondo Trash Show in Baltimore, the world premiere. She won the door prize, which was dinner for two at the Little Tavern, the worst hamburger shop in town. We didn't even know her. And then she hooked up us. She played Divine's daughter in Multiple Maniacs. And there is a great book about Cookie coming out called Edgewise that comes out in October that has everything in it. It's really good. So Cookie was great. She was a great writer. I wish she had been a writer always.
She had a column.
She had a column, yeah. Well, the Medical Association came out against it because she was called Ask Dr. Mueller, where she gave advice that was like would make people die and stuff, But it was pretty good to read. Just don't follow her advice. I mean, here's a girl that every night when she went out snorted instant coffee.
But she looked great.
Yeah, she did. She had a look.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you all. Thank everybody.